NASCAR had the tape. NASCAR had the data. NASCAR had a car owner screaming blatant over live team radio, in real time, while the wreck was still smoking. And somehow, they still let him walk away with absolutely nothing. No fine, no points, no suspension, nothing. If you think you understand how NASCAR punishes its drivers, what happened this week is about to break that theory completely. And by the end of this video, you're going to see exactly why the silence of one man's radio is more powerful than every angry word said about him this week. Picture this. A driver gets turned at nearly 180 miles an hour, sent spinning into the wall while the field roars past. The broadcast booth doesn't hesitate. They call it undeniable, live on national television. A rival driver goes home, sits down in front of a microphone for his own podcast, and drops one word that should have ended this entire conversation right there. Premeditated. A team owner, one of the most respected names in the sport, is on the radio live calling it blatant before his own car has even finished sliding to a stop. And the very next day, the man accused of doing it all on purpose is standing in the garage, personally apologizing to the crew whose car he just destroyed. By every single measure fans, broadcasters, and drivers normally use to judge intent in this sport, this looked like the most open-end shut case of the entire season. And then NASCAR came back on Tuesday with one word: nothing. So how does that happen? How does a governing body sit through that much smoke? The data, the apology, the owner on the radio, the broadcast booth calling it undeniable, and somehow decide there is no fire underneath any of it. Stay with me, because the answer is not NASCAR looking the other way. It is something far more calculated, far more deliberate, and far more revealing about how this entire penalty system actually works. And once you understand it, you'll never watch one of these controversies the same way again. The investigation, going deeper. This was not a 5-minute decision made by someone glancing at a replay monitor and moving on with their day. NASCAR's Vice President of Racing Communications broke down the entire internal process publicly this week, and honestly, it's more exhaustive than most fans probably give the sanctioning body credit for. Officials did not just study the 3 or 4 seconds where the two cars made contact. They pulled complete telemetry data from every single lap the two cars shared the racetrack that day. Not just the corner where it happened, not just the final 10 laps, the entire race, lap by lap, looking for any pattern that suggested one car was hunting the other. They combed through every radio transmission from both teams, from the start of the race to the very end, hunting for a single sentence, a single word, that might reveal intent before it happened. They pulled every camera angle NASCAR had access to that weekend: in-car cameras, spotter cameras, broadcast cameras, even angles that never made it to television. And then they went back even further, searching earlier in the race for some hidden spark, some smaller incident that never got attention, that might explain why everything boiled over exactly when it did. And after all of that, after every lap, every word, every camera angle, nothing rose to the level of what they call a smoking gun. Nothing proved, beyond reasonable doubt, that what happened on track was planned in advance rather than something that unfolded in the heat of a 3-second decision at 180 miles an hour. The one detail that changed everything. Here is the part that actually matters. The part almost nobody talked about this week, buried underneath all the outrage. In the most recent cases where NASCAR has come down hard on drivers for retaliation, real, documented cases earlier this very season, the crash itself was never actually the deciding piece of evidence. It was the radio. In those earlier cases, the driver said something first. Words of anger, words of frustration boiling over, words that, in hindsight, sounded almost like a warning of what was about to happen next. The radio is what turned what could have been dismissed as just a racing incident into something closer to a confession, recorded in real time, for NASCAR to review whenever they wanted. This time, total silence. Nothing about anger. Nothing about payback. Nothing resembling a threat. Just ordinary chatter about the car itself. Setup, handling, tire wear, before the contact, during the contact, and after the contact, almost as if nothing dramatic was happening around him at all. That silence, more than anything else in this entire situation, is what saved him from a penalty. Not a lack of evidence. Not a lack of suspicion. Just the absence of the one thing NASCAR has repeatedly shown it needs to actually act. A driver's own words connecting his intent to his actions. The reaction. Real conflict. Real disagreement. Not everyone accepted that explanation quietly. And this is where things got genuinely heated inside the garage this week. One rival driver went on his own podcast and did not hold back for a single second. He drew a direct line between this incident and an earlier one from this same season. A case where a different driver was penalized for something he argued looked far less aggressive than what happened this time. His conclusion was blunt and, frankly, a little brutal. If that earlier hit was serious enough to draw a real penalty, then this one, by every visual and data-driven measure, should have been treated as worse, not overlooked entirely. He didn't stop there either, essentially arguing that if the earlier incident was bad, this one was several steps beyond it. The kind of move that shouldn't need a driver's confession to be understood as intentional. Meanwhile, a broadcast analyst covering the race pointed straight at the raw telemetry data, insisting the numbers told the real story all on their own, that there was no physical, mechanical reason for a car to enter that corner at that angle with that little space unless the driver meant to put it there. In his eyes, the data wasn't circumstantial. It was undeniable. NASCAR's answer to all of it stayed precisely the same, no matter who asked the question or how loudly they asked it. The data can tell you what happened on the racetrack, cannot tell you why it happened. And without a driver's own recorded words connecting that intent directly to the action, officials maintain there simply is no case solid enough to justify a penalty. Not everyone in the garage treated this like a scandal, though. One veteran driver, now a respected analyst, took a far more relaxed view of the retaliation that followed under caution, essentially shrugging it off as short-track racing culture bleeding into the Cup Series. His point was simple. When a driver knows his race is already over, wanting the other guy's race to be over too isn't some rare, shocking impulse. It's something almost every driver in that garage has felt at some point in their career, whether they'll admit it publicly or not. The twist: why this is not actually over. So here's the question that actually matters. If nobody officially broke the rules, if there was no penalty, no fine, no points deducted, why is NASCAR pulling both drivers into a private meeting before the very next race? Because a no-penalty ruling is not the same thing as a clean slate. It is not the closing of this story. It might just be the calm sitting right before the real storm. This marks the third heated, talked-about incident between these two drivers across 3 consecutive race weekends. 3 separate races. 3 separate moments where things nearly boiled over. And now, with no penalties on the board for either side, both of them are heading straight into one of the fastest, most unforgiving tracks on the entire schedule. A place where contact at 200 miles an hour doesn't produce a bent fender and a shrug. It produces a wreck that can end a championship run in an instant, or worse. NASCAR officials know exactly what they're sitting on heading into that meeting. This closed-door session wasn't called because anyone inside that building thinks the situation is fine. It was called because they understand, better than anyone watching from outside, exactly how close this already came to spiraling into something far more dangerous. And they are trying, deliberately and urgently, to make sure it doesn't happen again at nearly double the speed, on a track that offers almost no room for error. The stakes. Why this matters more than it looks. For the driver who avoided punishment this week, this ruling means far more than simply dodging a fine or a few lost points. He is currently sitting just outside the safety of a comfortable championship position, clinging to a genuinely thin cushion above the cutoff line that decides who makes the playoffs and who goes home. A points penalty attached to this specific incident, even a modest one, could have absolutely crushed his playoff hopes at the single worst possible stretch of the entire season, with weeks that matter more than almost any other. Instead, he walks into the next race with his championship position fully intact, free to race without a suspension hanging over his head. But make no mistake, there is still something invisible hanging over him. A warning nobody wrote down on paper, but one that every single person in that garage can feel just the same. And he seems to know it. In interviews given just this week, he's already said, almost as if bracing himself for what comes next, that this upcoming stretch of races is absolutely crucial for his season, that he needs to be consistent every single week from here on out, and that he cannot afford to get tangled up in anything reckless or careless. Read between those lines, and it sounds a lot less like standard media day talk, and a lot more like a driver who already knows exactly how thin the ice underneath him has become. So here's exactly where this stands heading into the weekend. On paper, no penalties were issued to either driver. No points were taken from either side. On paper, this entire chapter is officially closed. But 3 straight weeks of building tension do not simply evaporate because a private meeting happened behind closed doors on a Saturday afternoon. Whatever gets said in that room stays in that room, locked away from cameras, from reporters, from all of us. The real conversation, the one that actually decides how this rivalry plays out, is not going to happen in a hauler with a NASCAR official mediating. It is going to happen out on the racetrack at nearly 200 miles an hour, surrounded by 40 other cars all fighting for their own piece of that same asphalt. And that conversation, whatever it turns out to be, is far from finished. Look, if you've stayed with me this far, you already know this isn't just about one crash, one ruling, or one closed-door meeting. This is a rivalry building right in front of us, piece by piece, race by race, and honestly, stories exactly like this one are the reason I fell in love with covering this sport in the first place. I put real time and real effort into digging through every angle, every quote, every piece of radio traffic, every bit of context, so that you get the full, honest picture instead of just a loud headline that leaves half the story out. So if this video kept you hooked from the very first second, please do me a genuine favor and hit that subscribe button. It might feel small on your end, but it truly means everything on mine. It's the only reason I get to keep sitting down and telling you these stories, digging into every rivalry, every controversy, every moment that actually matters in this sport. I promise you this, whatever happens between these 2 drivers this weekend, good or bad, calm or chaotic, I will be right here breaking it down for you first, the moment it happens. Now I genuinely want to hear from you. Do you think NASCAR made the right call letting both drivers walk away without a single penalty? And honestly, do you believe these 2 can actually share a racetrack this weekend without it boiling over into something far worse? Drop your honest take down in the comments below. I read every single one of them, and I'll be replying all weekend long. See you at the next race. This story is not over yet.